On his way home, the boy came across a girl wrapped head to toe in bandages near a pile of trash. At first, he thought he had stumbled upon some sort of murder scene, but when he looked closer, he realized it was actually a humanoid computer. So, he decided to take her home. The robot wasn't just incredibly cute. Her skin even felt so real that it was almost indistinguishable from that of a human. Hideki then started searching for a power button on her body and finally pressed it. Moments later, the girl opened her eyes. The man's name was Hideki. He had failed his college entrance exam and decided to move to the city to attend a prep school. Having grown up in the countryside, he was almost completely unfamiliar with modern technology, so when he saw humanoid computers walking around the streets, he couldn't believe his eyes. As a poor student, Hideki also dreamed of owning a personal robot, but after seeing how expensive they were, he had no choice but to give up on that idea. Fortunately, he managed to find a decent apartment. In a short time, he not only solved his living situation, but also met a kind-hearted landlady named Ms. Hibiya. There was also a neighbor named Shinbo, who, like Hideki, attended prep school. Shinbo owned a small humanoid computer named Sumomo. Lively and adorable, Sumomo instantly caught Hideki's interest. From Shinbo, he learned that these computers could do things like make calls automatically, connect to the internet anytime, anywhere, and even offer functions that especially appealed to men. That made Hideki realize how wonderful it would be to have one of his own. But for someone like him, a poor student, owning such a thing was clearly impossible. Yet somehow, he was lucky enough to find one for free. But she seemed unable to communicate properly, only able to make a sound like Chi. So Hideki decided to name her Chiya. Just as he was about to study the robot more closely, Shinbo suddenly knocked on his door, inviting him to go to the bathhouse. Caught off guard, Hideki hurriedly used his own body to cover Chiya. After finally sending Shinbo away, Hibiya, the apartment manager, came by to bring him some food and she spotted Chiya. Although she didn't say anything, Hideki couldn't help but worry that she might think he was doing something indecent. But Chiya was simply too adorable. Just as Hideki began to worry she might be broken, Chiya grabbed his shirt and looked at him with pleading eyes. Hideki immediately understood. Chiya didn't want to be abandoned again. However, she had a serious problem. Besides saying she couldn't speak a single word, like a newborn baby. Even so, Hideki still hoped to use her as a real computer. When he tried to play games or shop online, he quickly realized he had no idea how to operate her. Completely lost, he asked his neighbor Shinbo for help. At first, Shinbo thought Chiya was Hideki's girlfriend, but after taking a closer look, he realized this adorable girl was actually a robot. When he found out Hideki didn't know how to use her, Shinbo began demonstrating. He explained that these humanoid computers worked just like a PC tower. If you connected the data cable hidden in their ears to a monitor, most functions would become available. But from Chiya's condition, it was clear she had no operating system installed, or her internal software had been erased. When Shinbo asked to see which company made her, Hideki panicked and stopped him. Having grown up in the countryside, Hideki was extremely sensitive to Shinbo's casual attitude. Out of options, Shinbo asked Sumomo to run a diagnostic on Chiya, but something went terribly wrong. Sumomo's system crashed instantly. Overwhelmed by Chiya's high-performance CPU, Shinbo concluded that Chiya was an unusual case and suggested Hideki visit his friend Minoru for help. He drew a map and sent Hideki to Minoru's place. Minoru was a rich young man whose household staff consisted entirely of humanoid maids. He himself was also a well-known computer expert. Greeted warmly by 4 robotic maids, Hideki could only blush and thank them awkwardly. But even Minoru had never seen a computer that could move without an installed operating system, so he asked his 4 humanoid maids to run diagnostics on Chiya. Yet all of them crashed instantly, just like Sumomo. Fortunately, Minoru had one more high-end computer named Yuzuki. Yuzuki had a personality of her own. Unlike normal computers that only obeyed commands, she volunteered to examine Chiya, but in the end, even Yuzuki failed. The performance gap between her and Chiya was too great. That made Minoru realize something. Chiya might be related to the legendary Chobits series. Unlike regular computers, Chobits didn't rely on any system they could learn on their own. Still, based on Chiya's current state, there wasn't enough evidence to confirm she really was a Chobit. Minoru needed more time to investigate. As Hideki was about to leave, Minoru asked for his contact info. To their surprise, Chiya took the initiative to record it, then repeated Hideki's phone number out loud. Minoru concluded that Chiya indeed possessed a self-learning system, but she still needed Hideki to teach her. When they returned home, Hideki got some clothes from Miss Hibiya and helped Chiya change. Seeing Chiya dressed in her new outfit, Hideki's face instantly turned red from how cute she looked. He thought his life with Chiya by his side would be full of excitement and happiness, but he soon remembered he was still just a broke country boy. Looking at his savings and calculating his expenses, he realized he could barely afford next month's rent. Before heading out, Hideki tried to teach Chiya to say his name, but Chiya started calling every object around her Hideki. It drove him nearly insane. At the prep school, Hideki learned from Shinbo that upgrading a computer system or installing high-performance software could cost a lot of money. So, Hideki decided to look for a part-time job that very day, but after spending the whole day going to interviews, he couldn't find a single decent one. Just then, a girl on the street accidentally splashed dirty water all over him. The girl quickly apologized and dragged him into an izakaya nearby. To make up for her mistake, she gave Hideki a set of the restaurant's work clothes and sent his dirty ones to the dry cleaners. During a break, Hideki looked around the izakaya and was surprised to see that they also had a humanoid computer working there. As he was observing it, one of the restaurant's employees suddenly called out to him, mistaking him for a new trainee. Hideki went along with it and helped out with a few tasks. When the owner finally showed up, Hideki found out that the girl's name was Tamami. She was the owner's daughter. Through their conversation, Hideki learned that someone had recently quit, and the restaurant was currently short on staff. Seeing that Hideki was looking for a job, the owner offered to let him stay and work there. The thought of earning enough to upgrade Chiya's system made Hideki extremely happy. A few days passed, and Chiya had already learned to greet people with simple phrases. Hideki thought it was time to take her outside and show her the world, and to buy her some underwear, but because he was too embarrassed, he never actually bought any for her. Then, Shinbo gave him a brilliant idea. If Hideki was too shy to buy underwear himself, why not let Chiya go to the store instead? Plus, Shinbo could lend him Sumomo, who could guide Chiya with her built-in navigation system. That way, Chiya wouldn't get lost. So Hideki started teaching Chiya what underwear was and how to buy it. After some time learning, and with Sumomo as her guide, Chiya set off on her shopping adventure. But of course, things never go as smoothly as planned. Even though Hideki had carefully explained everything, Chiya was as curious as a child, fascinated by everything around her and particularly sensitive to images of underwear. When she saw a truck with a picture of panties printed on it, she ignored Sumomo's warnings and ran after it, completely throwing off their planned route. Luckily, Sumomo managed to stop her in time, but what happened next was even more unexpected. While they were crossing the street, Chiya noticed a cat carrying something that looked like underwear in its mouth. Ignoring Sumomo's protests, she ran after it. In the process, she climbed into someone's yard and accidentally left Sumomo behind. Meanwhile, Sumomo had been mistaken for a chew toy by a dog. Fortunately, the dog's owner stopped it in time, and Sumomo wasn't hurt. At the same time, Hideki, unable to relax, rushed out to look for Chiya. Even though Chiya had memorized all the traffic rules, she was still overly sensitive to everything around her. When she finally reached the destination, she found that the lingerie store was having a big sale. Within moments, she was swallowed up by the crowd. Hideki hurried over, afraid she might get crushed or damaged, but in his panic, he accidentally grabbed a pair of white panties, and the girl next to him immediately screamed and called the police, thinking he was some kind of pervert. Under the table, Chiya looked at the underwear she hadn't managed to buy, completely unsure what to do. That evening, when Hideki returned home exhausted and saw Chiya safe and sound, with a bag of underwear in her hands, he was overjoyed. But when he looked closer, he realized Chiya had accidentally bought men's underwear. Helpless, Hideki had no choice but to go back to the store himself. Under the judgmental stares of the shop clerks, he finally bought a pair of women's panties. At that moment, he felt like all his dignity had been completely destroyed. They must think he was the pervert of all perverts. But on that day, Chiya suddenly began to look weak. Hideki asked if she wasn't feeling well, but as a computer, Chiya couldn't understand what that meant. Since Hideki was always busy, he decided to wait until he got home that night to figure out what was wrong. Fortunately, Shinbo came to help, and through Sumomo's explanation, Hideki finally learned something important. Ordinary humanoid computers come with solar batteries, and as long as they get some sunlight, that's enough to power them for daily use. But for ones like Chiya, who spend most of their time indoors, they can recharge simply by taking out the charging cable hidden in their ear. That was when Hideki realized he had never charged Chiya even once. After borrowing a charger from Shinbo, Hideki hurried home to take care of her, but on his way back, he ran into Tamami. The restaurant was short on staff, and since it was his shift that night, Hideki was too embarrassed to say he needed to take time off to care for Chiya, so he kept working until evening, then rushed home. By the time he got there, Chiya was lying weakly on the floor, too drained to move. Thankfully, Hideki made it back just in time, but when he tried to charge her, a power surge suddenly caused the electricity to go out. Hideki thought maybe the circuit breaker had tripped, until he realized he hadn't paid the electric bill. And to make things worse, Hibiya wasn't home either. While Hideki ran around frantically trying to fix things, Chiya just smiled softly, trying to cheer him up. Her innocent smile touched him deeply. He swore to himself that no matter what, he would get her charged that night, so he lifted Chiya onto his back and headed out to the izakaya, hoping to use their power outlet. Thinking he could take a shortcut, he turned down a side street, but it was blocked by road construction. He tried another path, only to be stopped by a tall concrete wall. With no other choice, Hideki decided to climb over it while carrying Chiya, but just as he reached the top, his foot slipped and he fell straight down. At that exact moment, Chiya's remaining power completely ran out. Fortunately, Hibiya appeared, just in time to save them. She had seen Hideki fall while walking by and rushed over to help. Back at the apartment, Chiya was finally able to charge again, and Hibiya smiled in relief. But then the electricity meter in Hideki's room began spinning like crazy. At this rate, a single night of charging would cost as much as a month's rent. Hideki realized he was about to become completely broke. The next morning, Hideki woke from a dream to find Chiya sitting quietly beside him. By now, she had learned to understand quite a few things. Thinking back on everything that had happened yesterday, Hideki noticed his wallet was now completely empty. Half-jokingly, he said, "If only I had some money." Chiya heard him and took it seriously. She said she wanted to go out and get a job. Holding up a strange-looking flyer and asking for his opinion, Hideki shouted, "No way!" In panic, Chiya looked disappointed, not understanding why. Feeling bad, Hideki quickly explained that she could work but only if it was the right kind of job. Later, while Hideki went off to his own part-time shift, Chiya decided to look for a good job herself. As soon as she stepped outside, she was approached by a man. The man told her he knew a place that was hiring, and he led her to a small building. Then, he handed her some revealing clothes and told her to change. Behind the walls of the room, hidden holes revealed rows of customers watching. The man ordered Chiya to follow his commands and pose. Meanwhile, Hideki was still at the restaurant, happily waiting for Tamami's dinner, completely unaware that Chiya was in danger. Luckily, Minoru, who often kept an eye on online forums, noticed photos of someone who looked just like Chiya. After confirming with Yuzuki, he realized something was seriously wrong and immediately emailed Shinbo. Hideki got the message and panicked. He followed Sumomo's navigation directions and rushed toward the location. By then, Chiya's work was about to begin. Having never worn such clothes before, she moved awkwardly and hesitantly. The man thought she was malfunctioning, so he walked up and pressed one of her switches. In an instant, the entire room was engulfed in blinding light. Hideki arrived just moments later, but Chiya was gone. All that remained was a wrecked room and the man, trembling in fear. Elsewhere, Chiya stood in the center of the city, covered in a white cloak. All eyes turned toward her, and when she opened her eyes, every humanoid computer in the world suddenly entered standby mode, including Sumomo, who had been guiding Hideki. Through a street officer, Hideki learned that a girl matching Chiya's description had been seen on top of the city clock tower. He ran through the streets, searching desperately. Finally, he spotted her running high above the rooftops and chased after her. He caught up just as she collapsed beside a small river, her energy completely drained. Hideki caught her in his arms before she fell. At that moment, Sumomo rebooted, and all the other humanoid computers around the city came back to life as well. When Hideki woke up the next day, it felt like the entire event had been a long, surreal dream. Seeing that Chiya was okay, he let out a deep sigh of relief. Then, he began to educate her. Chiya sat quietly like a child who'd done something wrong, but Hideki didn't scold her. Instead, he gently explained what things were okay to do and what things weren't. Hideki decided he would personally help Chiya find a proper job. Recently, a Western-style bakery was holding an anniversary celebration and needed extra help. The owner agreed to let Chiya work there. Thanks to her adorable appearance, she attracted lots of customers, helped make the event a huge success, and even earned her very first paycheck. The bakery owner was a kind young man. He told Chiya she could come back and work anytime she wanted. Hearing that made her so happy that she gave him a big, heartfelt hug. The owner smiled and told her gently that hugs should be saved for someone she truly likes. That line instantly reminded Chia of something she had read in that blue-covered comic book. Meanwhile, Hideki arrived after his shift to pick her up. Chia proudly handed him her very first paycheck, hoping it would make him happy, but Hideki smiled and pushed it back toward her. He told her that she had earned it through her own hard work, so she should be the one to keep it.